Nina Bauer is a dating coach with strong opinions on how to find a partner, yet ironically, she's still single. While at a bar owned by her friend Taz, Taz expresses concern about Nina's reluctance to pursue a relationship. When Nina notices a man dealing with the aftermath of a failed first date, she walks up to him, hands him her card, and introduces herself as a dating coach. The next day, she meets with her publishers, Jane and Mike, to discuss her book. They want her own love story as the final chapter, explaining that they can't publish a book about finding love written by someone who hasn't found it. Which, admittedly, makes sense. Mike suggests a fairy tale ending with a billionaire or socialite, making Nina laugh at the ridiculous expectations. Later, she vents to Taz, ready to be done with Mike and Jane, but Taz thinks they have a point. Besides, it's time Nina found love too. After Taz leaves, Nina gets a call from Charles, the butler of the royal family of Montrovia, about a consultation. She assumes it's a joke at first, but quickly realizes it's real when he answers all her questions correctly. They set a time, and she agrees to go. Upon arriving at the royal house, she's stunned to discover the man she gave her card to is actually the prince. Freddie introduces himself and shares his dating struggles, though Edward, his right-hand man, keeps interrupting, much to Nina's annoyance. The king and queen want Freddie to marry, but he refuses an arranged match and insists on finding true love. Nina agrees to help, only to learn she must work alongside Edward, the royal matchmaker. Uncomfortable with the arrangement, she pulls Freddie aside, insisting she works alone. But Freddie explains it's a condition set by his parents for allowing him to search for love in Manhattan. They come to a compromise. Nina takes the lead, while Edward is there for appearances. It seems Edward and Nina are off to a rocky start. At the bar, Nina tells Taz about her plan. She'll seduce the prince while pretending to coach him. If Mike and Jane want her to date a prestigious man, she'll give them exactly that. Taz questions how she'll pull it off with Edward around, but Nina is confident she'll find a way. The next day, she heads to the royal house, ready to work. Edward presents a list of eligible candidates, but Nina insists on vetting it first. Finding none of them suitable, she tears it up and suggests they focus on teaching Freddie how to date before choosing a woman. Nina encourages Freddie to show her his skills, but he's at a loss for words. Taking the lead, she switches roles and flirts with him to demonstrate. Edward argues that her approach lacks real connection and begins displaying his own method. It's clear these two won't be getting along anytime soon. The next day, Nina schemes to get alone time with Freddie by suggesting a wardrobe update and giving Edward the day off. But Edward refuses, insisting on taking Freddie to the best designer in town, completely derailing her plan. The trio visits Oz, the designer, who immediately gets to work. Later, at the bar, Nina catches up with Taz, but is interrupted by a call from Mike and Jane. When they ask about her final chapter, she lies, claiming it's coming along well. To keep their interest, she fabricates a story about dating the Prince of Montrovia. Excited, they assure her the book is as good as published. Taz, however, thinks she's making a mistake. The next morning, Nina plans to take Freddie out under the guise of finding his princess, but Edward ruins it yet again. Turns out he's already taking Freddie to an elite party where he can meet someone. They all attend the party together, and Nina, determined to get alone time with Freddie, purposely spills her drink on Edward. With him momentarily distracted, she pulls Freddie aside and starts complimenting him, hinting that the perfect person might be right in front of him. Just as the moment builds, Edward returns and whisks Freddie away, leaving Nina frustrated. At this rate, her plan seems impossible. Edward points out Jessica, the daughter of a top businessman, and encourages Freddie to talk to her. The conversation goes well. Freddie even gets her number and sets up a first date before returning to Nina and Edward. Nina doubts Freddie's date will go well, given his track record, and suggests he practice with her first. They head to a restaurant for a fake date, and everything flows smoothly, until Edward shows up and inserts himself into the evening, much to Nina's annoyance. To shift the focus back, she suggests a dance and takes Freddie to the floor. He compliments her eyes, and for a moment, there's a connection between them, until Edward interrupts again. Freddie steps away to the restroom and asks Edward to take over. As they dance, Edward senses Nina's frustration and asks if he's done something wrong, but she insists everything is fine. As they dance, Edward casually asks Nina's thoughts on kissing on the first date. He believes a man should wait until the fourth, while Nina prefers to kiss when there's a real connection, no matter the timing. Their conversation takes an intense turn as they lock eyes, but just as the tension builds, Freddie returns, breaking the moment. Now that's an unexpected twist. On the walk home, Freddie thanks Nina for the date and suggests they do it again. She eagerly agrees, and as they lean in for a kiss, Edward suddenly appears, praising Freddie for a job well done, completely ruining the moment. Realizing the almost kiss was just for show, Nina is beyond frustrated. Later, she vents to Taz over the phone, but is interrupted by a call from Edward. He wants to meet the next day to review Freddie's performance. With little enthusiasm, Nina agrees and ends the call. The next day at the restaurant, Edward wonders if she would have actually kissed Freddie. Nina denies it, insisting she never kisses clients. He then asks if she's single, and she admits she doesn't like dating. Edward, on the other hand, enjoys it, but Nina finds it pointless when most of his dates lead to nothing more than a one-night stand. Edward asks why she dislikes dating, and Nina admits she can't help but coach her dates on what they're doing wrong. He's amused, and this might just be why she's still single. Teasing, he tells her she wouldn't need to coach if they ever went on a date, making her smile. Curious, she asks how he got into matchmaking, and he shares that a failed engagement led him to move to London. She now sees why he's scared of commitment, though Edward disagrees. Changing the subject, he suggests they join Freddie and Jessica on a double date to ease Freddie's nerves. Nina thinks it's a great idea. Back home, Nina updates Taz, who immediately teases her about Edward, but Nina dismisses the thought. Instead, she admits she's developing feelings for Freddie. Taz questions why she agreed to the double date, and Nina reveals her plan to sabotage Jessica's chances. Since Jessica is a Manhattan socialite, Nina assumes letting her be herself will scare Freddie off. At the date, however, Jessica turns out to be kind. Nina tries to criticize her privileged background, but Jessica insists she's just being herself. Edward pulls Nina aside, calling her out for trying to sabotage the date. He quickly picks up on Nina's feelings for Freddie, but she denies it, claiming she was just doing her job as a dating coach. Watching Freddie and Jessica completely engrossed in each other, Edward suggests they sneak out to give the couple privacy, and Nina reluctantly agrees. Operation Sabotage is officially a failure. Back home, she tries to write her final chapter, but can't find the words. Frustrated, she shuts her laptop, only to spot her own article about seducing a man who's into someone else. Turns out her tricks aren't working in her favor. The next morning, Nina visits Freddie with bagels and apologizes for her behavior. She insists she just wants him to find the right match. Freddie, however, sees no reason for an apology and reveals that Jessica is the one. Shocked, Nina argues that he shouldn't settle for the first woman who likes him because he needs time to find someone truly special, but Freddie believes she's just testing him. He pulls her into a warm hug, praising her coaching skills, which only frustrates her more. Just then, Edward arrives and suggests plans for a second date. On the day of Freddie's next date, he suggests Nina and Edward give him privacy again. Nina tries to object, but Edward fully supports the idea. Before they leave, Freddie invites them to his birthday dinner the next day. Later, Edward and Nina sit under the night sky, sharing a snack and enjoying the view. When Edward gets a notification from one of his admirers, Nina questions why he doesn't just settle down. Edward makes her a deal. He'll settle if she does, but Nina admits she hasn't found anyone she's attracted to. That sounds like something people say when they're afraid of getting hurt. Edward is confident that his cocktail tasting idea for Freddie's date is perfect, but Nina disagrees. When he challenges her to suggest something better, she takes him roller skating, and they have a great time, until they both end up on the ground, laughing. The next day, while preparing for the party, Nina nearly slips, and Edward catches her, leading to an intense moment between them. But before anything can happen, a call from Jane and Mike interrupts them. Jane and Mike ask for a wedding date with the prince, shocking Nina. They believe a royal wedding will guarantee the book's success, and a decision needs to be made soon. Nina assures them it'll happen and promises to deliver the last chapter before ending the call. Now that's a dilemma. Later at the party, Nina pulls Freddie aside from Jessica for an urgent talk, showering him with compliments. But Jessica interrupts, urging Freddie to return. Thinking it's just another lesson, Freddie thanks Nina and heads back to Jessica. Unwilling to give up, Nina pulls him aside once more. Jessica overhears Nina downgrading her and immediately confronts her, demanding to know what game she's playing. Nina finally admits she's Freddie's dating coach, shocking both Freddie and Edward. Appalled, Jessica questions if any of the dates were even real before storming out, with Freddie rushing after her. Nina has officially ruined everything. Edward, deeply disappointed, also leaves, but Nina chases after him. She confesses the truth, admitting she was never really into Freddie. However, Edward calls her actions unethical and reveals she's hurt him. Confused, Nina listens as Edward expresses his disappointment that she pursued another man while going on a date with him. Nina insists it wasn't a date and that nothing was ever happening between them, but Edward believes she's in denial. She sticks to her claim that it was just work, leaving Edward disappointed. The next day, the scandal is everywhere, and Taz confirms it's really bad. On top of that, Mike and Jane cut off their deal, making Nina feel even worse. She spots Freddie outside and tries to apologize, but he's clearly upset. He's all over the blogs, his parents want him back in London, and Jessica has broken things off, believing he was just playing games. And it's all thanks to Nina. Nina tries to fix the situation by arranging a meeting with Jessica, apologizing, and confessing her deal, hoping she'll give Freddie another chance. But Jessica remains unsure and walks away. The next day, Nina admits to Taz that she doesn't think she's made a real difference. Taz disagrees, reminding her that she's helped thousands of people get married, but Nina feels love brought people together, not her. Realizing Jessica fell for Freddie when he was just himself, she starts questioning her entire career. Nina realizes there's no trick to finding the right person. Instead, one just needs to be authentic. Taz suggests she write her final chapter about her story with Freddie, ending with this revelation, and Nina immediately gets to work on the brilliant idea. The next day, she reads it to Taz, who loves it and urges her to send it to Jane and Mike, despite everything. Later, Nina meets Freddie to apologize again, but he's already forgiven her. He thanks her for talking to Jessica and surprises her with the news that they're engaged. She's glad he's found his princess, and Freddie invites her to the engagement party the next day, insisting that Edward will be there. He believes they have chemistry and should express their feelings for each other. The next morning, Jane and Mike share the exciting news her book will be published, with a launch the next day, making her excited. They love her final chapter and wonder how the story ends with Edward. Nina is confused by this, but Mike thinks that their story is what the last chapter is really about, where she finally realizes the true love that has been right in front of her all along, after being so focused on ambition. This revelation makes Nina see what she has been missing, and she excuses herself to make things right. She rushes to the engagement party, only to learn that Edward has already gone back to London, leaving her heartbroken. At the book launch, Nina gives a speech, thanking Jessica and Freddie for following their hearts, which helped make her book a success. When Mike and Jane ask about her next book, she admits that it might be about an ambitious woman who misses out on love. Before she can say more, Edward interrupts, suggesting a better story. Two stubborn people who almost lost love but find it in the end. This leads to an intimate moment between them, and Nina teases him about his stance on first-date kissing. Clearly, his views have changed, as they share a passionate kiss, sealing their love to the cheers of everyone around them.